So I'll be speaking about the use of pulse cyclophosphamide therapy in macula-threatening retinal vasculitis. So this is the garden variety of the disease which we all see. Peripheral involvement is usually the norm in retinal vasculitis, as we all know. Our role usually starts with development of neovascularization elsewhere. And this is what all of us have been doing, a mixture of immune suppression using oral steroids and laser. And most of the time, the laser works and disease activity reaches a stage of quiescence. And only in few of these cases, the TRDs occur where surgery is required. And even after surgery, we realize that most of the time the macula remains normal and the visual acuity in the long run is generally not badly affected in cases of retinal vasculitis. Very rarely it happens that untreated cases have this kind of macular disruption where we lose vision in these young patients. Now, the twist occurs with occurrence of macular involvement. That is what got us thinking that we were getting few young patients. We get little more of them in army setting, exposed to much more antigens, and they had macular involvement. So halting the disease progression immediately was of paramount importance in these cases. We do not want to laser these maculas. And in case the NVEs develop very close to the macula in the long run, they are not going to be helped by use of anti-VEGF, and intravitreal steroids and methotrexate take a long time to take effect. Now, these innocuous looking diseases where you see a little bit of puffing around the macular vessels can very rapidly progress to such kind of violent disease where we see large areas of CNP well within the macula and distortion of the OCT picture. And even on OCTA, we can see that these diseases sometimes encroach into the cornea very early. Now, mostly these diseases are bilateral and the decision to take immune suppression systemically is easy for us. So the primary drug treatment has remained systemic steroids with most retinal vasculitis patients are treated with this in our country. IV methylprednisolone remains the drug treatment of choice simply because all of us have had a very large experience with this drug and it is easy to administer and monitor the treatment. But we must remember that methylprednisolone or systemic steroids in the long run have very deleterious side effects, especially in a young patient. So where does IV cyclophosphamide come in? This is a pulse therapy. It has been around since 1994 when Rosenblum et al. First talked about it. 50 milligram per kg, maximum for 4 days under the supervision of your immunologist. And Durrani et al. Had studied the efficacy and found that these pulses were effective in treatment-resistant cases in almost 68% patients. And protocol for combining both systemic steroid and cyclophosphamide have already been developed. We have had Indian research coming from our centers like AIIMS, and a literature review as latest as 2020 also talked about the efficacy of PIVC. So what is unique in our study is that though retinal vasculitis is common, we do not see the role of IV cyclophosphamide written about retinal vasculitis, especially in macular affliction. And we compared here cyclophosphamide with methylprednisolone, which is the standard of care as far as our country goes. So in both the cases, however, there was a confounder that oral prednisolone was used in the long run, even after giving the pulses. So this was the only change, though we switched over most of our patients from oral prednisolone to some other immune suppression like methotrexate or azathioprine after 6 weeks. But in the initial phase where you required a pulse, that is where cyclophosphamide came in. And we measured the best corrected visual acuity, activity on FFA, and most importantly, whether the ischemia was encroaching into the central 1500 microns and adverse effects requiring cessation of therapy. Now, this was a very small study because you do not see retinal vasculitis patients with macular affliction commonly. There were just 8 patients, and I had 4 patients going into the cyclophosphamide group and 4 into the methylprednisolone group. The smallest follow-up was for 7 months, the longest one for more than 3 years, and I have an average follow-up of about 18 months with most of these patients. And when we use IV cyclophosphamide, we never repeat it before 28 days, and only 1 patient required the full quota of 3 pulses. Rest all responded to a single pulse. These were just 4 patients. While the IVMP patients were pulsed for 5 days, we did not use the 3-day dosing regime. We used the 5-day dosing regime, and it was not repeated thereafter. So this is what is the effect of IV cyclophosphamide at the 5th day of initiating treatment. From a leaking macula, this is the change that you see in these cases. And the macular ischemia, which required 3 pulses, was in a patient of Behçet's disease, where you can see the disease has almost eaten up the entire temporal macula from his left eye, his reading acuity was quite hampered. But this patient, we were able to save the macula after initiation of cyclophosphamide, as can be seen in the last slide. So talking about how much the best corrected visual acuity increased, both cyclophosphamide and methylprednisolone, they were similar when we talk about the central visual acuity. But if you talk about the progression of ischemia towards fovea, it was present only in one of the cases of cyclophosphamide compared to 3 cases of methylprednisolone after starting the treatment. And arrest of activity on FFA, it occurred in almost all cases of cyclophosphamide, kept recurring in the case of Behçet's. That is why we pulse the Behçet's case thrice. While in the methylprednisolone group, it took some time for the vasculitic arrest to be achieved at 3-day, 14-day, and 28-day. So the adverse effects which required cessation of therapy in cyclophosphamide.
It's my humble reminder to Dr. Pradeep. Actually, it's time up. Could you please sum up?
So just to summarize that, they are not major side effects. If you hydrate your patient well, and if you've done an infective screen with the CT chest, IV cyclophosphamide is a very safe drug. These are my limitations. And my take home is that if you have macular involvement in retinal vasculitis, require careful assessment. Either on all follow-ups, you do a careful biomicroscopy or image the patient. And Emsler grid really helps in these cases where your patient comes back to you and tells that I have a macular involvement. I am through. And any questions, please?
So, Dr. Pradeep, very nice study, though the sample size is small to derive any meaningful conclusion. But anyway, it's a new modality that you have tried your treatment. But did you combine anti-VEGF in any of these cases?
Yes, sir. I did and combine anti-VEGF in my patient of Behçet's disease, sir. This patient, whenever the recurrences occurred, along with the recurrence, there was a macular edema which was coming into the inferotemporal half of my macula, which was just not going. And therefore, after pulsing him twice, before the third pulse, I gave him IV intravitreal anti-VEGF also. Fortunately, at that time, we had aflibercept available with us. We tried that, and it seemed to work. But what I have come to realize in retinal vasculitis, I deal with it quite commonly, that whenever we use anti-VEGF in retinal vasculitis, the effect is not as long as we see in other neovascular diseases. Right after 14th day, you start seeing a recurrence of activity if you are not placing your patient on systemic immune suppression. So as I mentioned, I combine azathioprine and methotrexate in most of these patients in the long run. They remain on immune suppression for about 3 years. And yes, intermittently, we do use anti-VEGFs.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did you subclassify your patients of retinal?
Thank you for the question. That the sample size for macular retinal vasculitis is so small that out of these 4 patients, I can give you the diagnosis of all 4, but there was no place to subclassify them. But yes, if you want a figure as to how many patients had macular involvement, I'll say that in my routine of an year, I see about 200 patients coming of retinal vasculitis, which come to me at various stages. But out of them, just these 12 patients have macular involvement, out of which 8 were studied in this particular study. So that is the figure where we can come that less than about 6% patients of retinal vasculitis will predominantly have a macular involvement.
With all due to respect, doctors, all the chairpersons, I request you to please move on to the next speaker because we are running short of time.